Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio College Basketball Closing Time Show, Tuesday, January 5th. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack, ready to attack the college basketball Tuesday card. Let's get right to it. Let's start with a game that's actually tipping off in an hour from now. It's a late afternoon game, 4 p.m. Eastern. It's the Florida Atlantic Owls and the James Madison Dukes in this matchup. We've got Florida Atlantic, 1.5 point favorites here in this game. Total up a little bit. From 143 up to 145.5 in this game. When you look at it, James Madison, a team that certainly coaching change coming into this season, trying to get themselves, get on the right path, I should say. 3-4, decent start. Florida Atlantic and a solid 5-3 start. You look though at the schedule; it hasn't been necessarily a murderer's row for Florida Atlantic, but they have played pretty solid basketball here. That they've taken the money here. I wouldn't necessarily argue with that. I think they're a little bit better than James Madison, but I'm definitely looking more at the total in this game. I agree with the move up. James Madison does play relatively fast from a pace standpoint, tempo standpoint. Defensively, nothing to write home about. So I passed on the side, but I do like the over in this game. I bet 143. It's, I think, 144.5, 145 right now, but I would still I think there's still enough value, still enough wiggle room to go over the total there with FAU and James Madison. Connor, you got any thoughts on that game?
I lean with you a little bit too, especially just because of the competition, FAU against James Madison. These are two teams, good teams. They play each other. I think this can get over the total. If they were playing a stronger opponent, maybe this couldn't go over if FAU was playing somebody else. And I like FAU a bit. At -2, it's not that I love it, but I'd lean them if you want some action. I think they can cover here. James Madison's been a bit scrappy, but I think FAU, I've seen a couple of games so far this year. I mean, yet it was against South Alabama, all the teams they play, but they looked okay. I'd lean with them -2 a little bit here in this spot as well.
All right, a little lean to FAU for Connor. We go to the MAC here, Northern Illinois taking on Ohio. The Bobcats, 14.5 point home favorites, 132.5 the total. In this game, money's come in on Northern Illinois, a really bad basketball team. First game after they fired their head coach. So, does that work in college, Connor? I'm not so sure. I know that is an angle in the NBA, NHL, NFL. Fire the coach. The first game after the firing, the team comes up with a big effort, and you can bet on that team often and cash with them. I'm not so sure that works in college basketball, because when you have a really bad team like Northern Illinois can't shoot the basketball. Their offense is just dreadful. Defense really isn't that much better. It is, a situation where you would expect the players to have, full attention and focus on this game. You've had such a dismal season that your coach just got dismissed. How attentive are you for this game? So I can understand that you're probably going to get an uptick in effort, but an uptick in effort alone, is it going to be enough to cover for Northern Illinois here? They're getting a lot of points. I wouldn't go against them necessarily in this spot, NIU, for as bad as they've been, because I do expect the effort to be there tonight after the coaching change, but Ohio's a lot better than Northern Illinois, and they're playing some really good ball right now in this conference. So for me, it's a pass. The money, I just wanted to mention why I think the money's coming in on Northern Illinois. I think it's got everything to do with the coaching change and thinking that the team might have a step-up effort and have the attention of the interim coach in that first game. What's your thoughts, Connor, here, Huskies and Bobcats?
Northern Illinois is really bad. And you said, I see it, like I'm in hockey, I think it's really, and the pro sports, I haven't seen it much either, and not that there's a ton, there just doesn't seem like there's a ton of college coaches getting canned in basketball during the season. I mean, there always is a few, but not a lot. Northern Illinois is not good. I had Bowling Green, which we'll talk about them later. The other night, the easy cover there. They've gotten beat pretty bad every game. They lost by 9 to Ball State. And I like Ohio. They've been, like you noted on, they've been playing some really good basketball, but I don't want Ohio laying 14.5. This is not.
No.
That's the one thing. I think Ohio can kind of name their number. I think they can cover the spread, but you won't catch me laying 14.5. Not right now. They're the better team. And like you said, the money's coming in just, I think, because the coaching change. Because it's not like they, Steph Curry walked in on the team or something's all of a sudden they're gonna make a bunch of threes out of nowhere. So they're still the same old team. So I lean Ohio, but I can't get there minus 14.5.
Yeah, and they haven't been making threes. How about 338 in the country, 3-point field goal percentage?
Woo!
That's pretty bad.
Ouch.
That's really, really bad. And what's amazing in this matchup is you got Ohio, 52nd shooting the three. Northern Illinois, 291 3-point defense. So you've got matchups both ways that don't work for Northern Illinois in this game on paper. That being said, it is a lot of points here to be laying. And I would expect, again, I would just think Northern Illinois, you get their attention. It wouldn't shock me if they cover. I just don't have the guts to pull the trigger on them. They've just been so horrendous. I mean, their only win is against Chicago State. I mean, think about that. Only win. They're 1-7. Lamar Chapman, by the way, the guy taking over in the interim here as the head coach, 64-54. And it was a 10-point win against an absolutely abhorrent Chicago State team. And they only won that game by 10 points. And everybody is killing Chicago State. Everybody else is beating them by like 30 or 40. This Northern Illinois team could only beat them by 10. So, yeah, they've got issues. I understand they're probably going to have a good effort tonight, but will it be enough? That remains to be seen. Next up on the rotation, another MAC matchup, Central Michigan, Bowling Green. Bowling Green, 9-point home favorites, 159 the total in this game. A lot of people expected Bowling Green to be pretty good coming into this season. No question about that. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't step up in class better earlier in the season. They had some decent games against some pretty good competition. Bowling Green, Michael Huger's team didn't necessarily play well in them. The Wright State game, the Michigan game, they got blown out. They do have a nice home win against Buffalo, a pretty good Buffalo team. Give them credit for that. So far here in Maction, they beat Ohio by 8. They steamrolled Northern Illinois on the weekend on the road in DeKalb, 68-42, which I think was the final straw in Northern Illinois saying goodbye to Montgomery, their head coach. So a couple nice wins in a row for this Bowling Green team. Really like them in terms of Daquan Plowden, Trey Diggs, Justin Turner, guys that can fill it up. They're still on the defensive end of the basketball court, not great. 212 in the country in efficiency on D. That's nothing to write home about for this Bowling Green team. Central Michigan under Keno Davis, you might want to watch out for them because, they had a really nice win in their last game last Tuesday against Eastern Michigan, and they just blew them out, 87-60. And this is a team that I think is going to get better as the season goes on. They had some growing pains. They took some lumps early in the season. Keno Davis has been around the block. Remember, he coached Wake Forest for a very long time. Now he's coaching here at Central Michigan. And the fact that they finally played really good defense. In fact, their last 2 MAC games, they played better defensively after really scuffling at that end of the court early on. They were giving up 90s earlier in the season. Maybe there's a buy sign on Central here. I would lean to Central a little bit, plus the 9. I like Bowling Green a lot, but it's just that not just Central Michigan won the last game, but they won it decisively, commandingly, over 20 points margin of victory against Eastern. Maybe a sign this team is just about ready to turn a corner. It's going to be much tougher against Bowling tonight. Don't get me wrong. But I do think this team's going to be maybe an under-the-radar, value-laden point spread team in conference play. So I'm going to put that theory to the test. We'll lean a little bit to the Chippewas here, getting 9. What's your thoughts, Connor? Central Michigan, Bowling Green.
I'm with you here, too. I think Bowling Green's kind of one of the better sneaky. They could win the MAC this year. At least I think they're the top tier. They played well. Kind of right out of the gate, I thought they played pretty well against Michigan. I mean, they lost by 14. This is a spot that's weird. I had them the other day, like I said, but that was against Northern Illinois. I don't know what to make. I like Central. I played them a few times this year. They threw a stinker up against Western Michigan, but a good win against Eastern. Definitely Bowling Green's the better team here, but I don't think 9. I think that's a reach. I'm with you here. I haven't made it official and bet this one, but I'm really looking at this one. I think 9's a little too much. I'm with you. I'm with the Chippewas. I like the 9 points here.
I like the over too, but I missed the number. I mean, it was 156. It's already 159, but this should be a track meet. I mean, you got 2 teams that are top 100 in the country in pace. Central Michigan's just blistering, 33 in tempo. Bowling Green, 74 in tempo. You've got both teams struggling to shut down the perimeter. and both of these teams shoot top 100 3-point field goal percentage. So a lot of threes, a lot of made threes, a lot of pace. You can see why the total's this high. It would be over or pass for me, but the problem is I missed the best number. 3-point move is tough, especially now that it's almost 160.
60, yeah. That was, I agree.
You need that clean ride, but I would still only look over the total if I were to bet a total in that game. Dayton, Fordham. Dayton, 11.5-point road favorites here, 125, 126 the total. Is Fordham Rams basketball ever going to be good before I'm dead? Like, really? I mean, it is just, it's nails on a chalkboard watching this team every single year. I mean, we're waiting for Dayton or Fordham to turn things around, get a little bit of improvement, particularly show some improvement on the offensive side of the basketball court, and it just doesn't seem to happen. Now, this team got a late start to their season under Jeff Neubauer this year. They only got their season going December 30th. They had all kinds of COVID delays and disruptions in their season, and it's looked like the same old, just shitty, non-existent shooting team. Fordham. They score 47, lose 71-47 to George Washington. They get drubbed 89. How do you lose to LaSalle 89-52? LaSalle is no world beater by any stretch, and they lose by 37 in that game. The shooting's just been miserable for this team. What are we looking at in terms of field goal percent? We're talking 340s. Just so you know, there's like 352 teams in Division I college basketball. So we're talking about bottom of the barrel offensive execution. In the first two games. Now, they only had a small sample size. All right, I get it. But still, 2 games, and Fordham has just been dreadful at the offensive end of the basketball court. As far as Dayton is concerned, it's always a question. Are they focused? That's always a question. Playing a lowly team in this Fordham team, and you got a big one with Davidson on Friday following this game. Is it a look ahead for this Dayton team? Even if it is a look ahead, they could probably cover this number and win by the mark. Name the score, even with their eyes closed. Go out there on the court and probably drill this team. I know Dayton, lost a couple key pieces. Obviously, Obi Toppin gone from last year's team. A couple of the guards. Jalen Crutcher is the main returnee from last year. But Dayton still played pretty good basketball for the most part. They lost to SMU 66-64. They had their own kind of head-scratching loss against LaSalle, but they bounced back, beat George Mason in their last game. I don't lay double digits on the road very often, but I did. That's not a big bet, but a small one here on Dayton minus the 11.5. I just think Fordham is that bad that I think you can go ahead and lay these points. What's your thoughts, Connor, on this one?
You're right. Fordham just is that bad. I mean, they are just not a good basketball team. And this is more Dayton this year, I'm not as high on, but I have to say their schedule, they haven't covered as well, but they lost by 2 to SMU. They beat Northern Kentucky by 6, Mississippi State by 3, Ole Miss by 3. Some tough teams, and then they just beat George Mason by 9. It's more of a fade of Fordham. They're just that bad. They're really, really that bad. I had the limit at 11.5. I have, just like you, this was kind of my least one, but it's just a fade on them, and I think Dayton can get it done. It's not one of my favorite looks, but I think they can cover this. This team is very bad. I mean, I don't want to take right now plus 11 Fordham. I'd be holding my teeth. I just haven't seen Dayton, loot, and they're missing a few guys today too that are out of the lineup. So that's why I don't love it as well. But a play on Dayton. I think they cover this 11.5 here.
And not quite as deep as they were last year either, Dayton. So that may be the little concern. But I honestly, they've got the right opponent. Even if you've got injury concerns, even if you're concerned about spot, like I said, I think they can still go in there and win by 15 plus. I really do.
Get right spot here.
37. When you're seeing a team struggle to get into the 50s or barely into the mid 50s in points scored, I don't know how you can what if Fordham gets held again to 55 or less, they're going to hold Dayton to 66 points or less. I can't see it. So to me, it's not going to take a whole. If Fordham's just as miserable at the offensive end as they were in their first 2 games, I don't think it's going to take all that much here for Dayton to cover the number. Tasha asking, where's Ski Profit? Ski doesn't handicap college basketball. There you go. There's your answer. That's why he's not on this show, but he does handicap NBA. He's with us Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the NBA show. He'll be back with us tomorrow for that. Here's a good one to talk about. I don't know if it's a great one to bet, but it's fascinating to talk about this one. Vanderbilt, Kentucky. Kentucky 11.5-point home favorites, 136.5 for total. So Kentucky finally won. They showed some grit. They showed some gumption, eking out an overtime win against Mississippi State in their last game. following up what was a hard-fought but pretty competitive loss to Louisville on the road. Coach Cal's team is showing signs of improvement. There's no question. They've taken some steps forward the last 2 games. And the way, they gutted out that win against Mississippi State was impressive. Olivier Sarr was good down the stretch of that game. Davion Mintz made some big free throws. Brandon Boston, they stepped up really well for Kentucky, closing out that game against Mississippi State. We're still talking about a 2-win basketball team that just got their first win in SEC play. Are we ready to lay 11.5 with them now? All of a sudden here in this game, that becomes the big question. However, just as dubious as can we trust Vanderbilt here? Vanderbilt has played 3 teams in the top half of, whether you look at Ken Pom, Bart Torvik, all of these websites that have college basketball power ratings and stats. Most of them have only 3 Vanderbilt opponents in their top, 50 or 100 teams. Florida, Davidson, and Richmond. Okay, those are the 3 best teams Vanderbilt's played. Well, they got their butts kicked in all 3 of those. They got their asses handed to them in all 3 games. Now, is Kentucky on the level of Davidson, Florida, and Richmond? If they're showing the improvement they've shown the last couple of games, they're certainly getting closer to that group of teams, closer to that level of teams. So it's a tough game. I don't trust Kentucky flat out. I don't trust Kentucky as double-digit chalk. If I had to, I'd play Vanderbilt, but they haven't stepped up in class well at all, Jerry Stackhouse's team. The more you watch them play, it's more like Scottie Pippen and nobody else really stepping up consistently, Scottie Pippen Jr., and nobody else consistently helping them out offensively. So for me, it's a lean to Vanderbilt, but I parked the bus on this one. Connor, what's your thoughts here? SEC, Vanderbilt, Kentucky.
Yeah, Vandy is Pippen and kind of everybody else. Like you said, I'd take Vandy, but in those 3 games, which I was looking at, you already named it, Davidson, Florida, they lost by 20. So I just couldn't take Vandy with the 11.5. This seems like a get right at home Kentucky win here, and Vandy's just been so bad on the road. They're not very good. Their last 5, they're 1-4. On the road, they're even worse. They're really bad at Kentucky over the years. It was a stay away for me. So it just, the number's kind of right there, at 11.5. You see that 20, you see a 20-win blowout, Kentucky or more, or maybe a little grit in an 8-point win. Yeah. Maybe a 7-point win if they don't have their head straight. But I think Kentucky's getting better. They were just young. I mean, they were played a few tight games, few bad games, but a few good ones. Again, Kansas, there were some close games there. So I think they're on the right track. They're on the right track, as we'll talk about another team, powerhouse, that's not on the right track in Michigan State. We'll see, though, tonight. So,
yeah, this, like I said, I could see Vanderbilt squeaking out a close to the number type of cover. I could see Kentucky maybe rolling here because, again, you've got just some really hideous results in their step-up games for this Vanderbilt team. Lost by 11 at home to Richmond, lost by 19 at home on last week to Florida. And then, of course, the one road game that they've had, Davidson, and it was really their only true road game to this point was Davidson. They lose by 20. So, that there's concerns here about whether they can hang with Kentucky, but there's equal concerns to me whether Kentucky can be laying 11.5 right now. So fascinating game, one I'll be passing on. Davidson, Duquesne. Davidson, 2-point road favorites here, 137.5 the total in this one. A pretty good matchup here between these 2 teams. These are 2, I would say, upper top, 4 or 5 teams in the Atlantic 10 this season. They should be. You look at this Davidson team; they're one of my favorite teams to watch. I know the record's 5-4 overall, but look at the loss. Other than the bad loss to Charlotte, Richmond, Texas, Providence, no shame in either of those losses. They're coming off the home loss, 80-74 to a good Richmond Spiders team. I think it's one thing about Davidson. They're a pretty good bounce back team. I remember they had the loss to Charlotte, and they went on the road and beat Rhode Island. So I'd be reluctant to go against Davidson off a loss. They've been pretty good in that kind of situation. But I like this Duquesne team, and I like Keith Dambrot. I think he's a very good coach. I like the hire the moment they brought him in here. They are coming off a loss to George Washington, 75-73, which is a little bit disconcerting, but you would think back home in this home underdog role against Davidson, they have the chance to compete and have a pretty solid effort here. What I do like here about this Duquesne team is they're pretty good at the defensive end of the court, and sometimes a little bit better than Davidson at that end of the court. So it's a tough game because I think you got two teams off a loss, two teams that will bring it, two teams I'd rather bet on than fade. So pass for me in this one with Davidson and Duquesne. Connor, how about you?
Yeah, I think Duquesne's going to get better as the year goes on. I think this is a good spot for Davidson. The only problem is now at a pick'em, I liked it, and 2 would be my max. I think I'm still on Davidson, but I wouldn't go more than 2. I like them. I think they get the job done here. Duquesne, they've looked okay. They've had a long wait, pause, in their season. All those canceled games. I think they had like 5 or 6. And then the back-to-back to George Washington, and they looked okay. Won one, lost one. Give me Davidson here. I think they bounce back. I'm going to lay the 2 with it.
All right, liking Davidson and Bob McKillop's team led by Kellen Brady. He's a fun guard to watch on that team. NC State, Clemson. Clemson 4.5, 5-point home favorites, 136.5 the total in this game. The Clemson Tigers are not necessarily a team I'm interested to back routinely, as I've mentioned many times on this show. We'll have to see how they fare here against Kevin Keats and the NC. I certainly give Kevin Keats a coaching edge. I'll take him any day over Brad Brownell. I'm not a big Brad Brownell guy. But Clemson, 8-1, I'll give them credit. They squeaked one out against Miami, 66-65 in their last game, beat Florida State 77-67. The only loss this year was on the road against Virginia Tech. NC State, though, 6-1. He deserves a lot of credit, Kevin Keats. They've had COVID issues. They've had guys in and out of the lineup, DJ Funderburk, Cam Hayes, other guys on this team. They've missed games. They've missed periods of the season, and yet they've found ways to keep themselves afloat and find ways to win. Their only loss was to a very, very good St. Louis Billikens team. They beat North Carolina, and North Carolina had owned NC State. They finally beat North Carolina. And then maybe a little bit of a letdown spot. They avoid it. They don't cover, but they survive, and they beat Boston College 79-76 here. I lean NC State here with the points. I mean, I'm just not huge on this Clemson team, to be honest with you, or Brad Brownell from this spot. And one thing about NC State, yeah, the loss was 2-11 against St. Louis, but they were very shorthanded in that game. Every other game's been tight, close game, down to the wire against the best teams that NC State's played. I could see that being more of the same here in this one. So a little bit of a lean for me to the Wolfpack. What's your thoughts, Connor?
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the scrappiness that NC State has shown all year. I still like it at 4.5. I really liked it at 5. The one big key is they're not wait until game time is Manny Bates. He's a 6'11" big guy down low.
Yep.
That averages like 11.8. I know Funderburg is back, but they really need Bates, I think, in there. I think they could get it done, but he's to bang against Clemson and to keep it tight. And you nailed it right on the head with all these close, tight ball games. I definitely lean. I'm going to wait for him because he's a kind of a game time decision. I'm going to wait till the last minute, but I lean NC State, and I like the under here as well. Clemson's just, as I'm not big on them, they really slow it down. Not a great scoring team, but very good defensively. They hit the glass. So I think this one's in the 60s. So I like the under 136.5. I think it's at right now.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson, I would say Clemson, even though I like NC State a little bit here, plus the points, I think Clemson probably is still slightly the better team. They're at home, and often teams that are favored and at home, when it's a pace war, NC State's going to want to get this up and down the court. Clemson's going to want to slow it down, play in the half court. It's usually the home team and the favorite that get the pace the way they want it. And that obviously is Clemson in this game. So that speaks to the point that maybe the under is probably it could be the way to go here in this game. Next up, we've got Kansas State, Texas Tech, Big 12. Texas Tech, 16-point favorites here, 125 the total. Texas Tech first half, Texas Tech full game. I didn't bet either one, but that's the only way I'm looking here in this game. We got Texas Tech off the loss to Oklahoma State on the weekend. You would expect a big concerted effort to bounce back strong here from Chris Beard's team. Not necessarily fluid, Texas Tech. Still a team I have a great amount of respect for. Certainly a Big 12 contender at this point. They're still deserve to be in that conversation, in my opinion, with maybe a little bit behind them. But they're still, on their best day, they can hang with Baylor. They can hang with Kansas. They can hang with Texas. But there has been a little bit of a something not quite right with Texas Tech. They've had some peculiar showings. Even the game against Oklahoma that they won, they nearly frittered it away late, and they had to hang on to win by 2. They lose, of course, again in overtime against Oklahoma State. I will say this about Bruce Weber's team. They are starting to find ways to cover some numbers, but I don't trust them here. They're going on the road. They're playing what should be an angry Texas Tech team. Let's not forget, at home against Baylor, and Baylor's at least in the same stratosphere as Texas Tech. Kansas State lost 100-69 to that Baylor team. I think it's going to be a long night here for the Wildcats. I didn't pull the trigger, but certainly would lean in the direction of Red Raiders first half and Red Raiders full game in this one, even though it is a lot of points. Connor, what's your thoughts here? K-State, Texas Tech.
Yeah, I didn't play it. I lean Texas Tech. I just don't like laying big numbers with them. They're not the team I really like doing that.
Basically, that's my reasoning for not betting the game right there. You're right.
Really?
So playing these big numbers with Tech, no pace, defensive-minded team, not necessarily always got that big offensive game in them. Yeah, that's my fear.
Yeah, exactly. And I lean, even though at 125, I'd lean a bit towards the under. I think K-State doesn't get much. And Texas Tech will be pissed. It's a little bit too many here. I think a backdoor cover, a couple late shots. I don't want my money on it, but Texas Tech would be the side with me.
All right, back to the SEC. We've got Florida and Alabama here. We've got the Crimson Tide, 2.5, 3-point home favorites, 152.5 the total. Now, normally in this kind of spot, I'd be looking to go against Alabama. Like they're off that enormous win against Tennessee. And I said that on the Saturday show, and I liked Alabama plus the points. Yeah. I said, I'm going to buy into Alabama starting to get their shit together. And obviously that's a big statement that they're starting to get their shit together, going to Knoxville, beating the Volunteers the way they did. Really impressive win for Nate Oates' team. This is now starting to look like the Alabama team I thought could be in that upper tier in the SEC. They're playing like it now. The last few games, they had a great win against Ole Miss. Now they follow that up with a great road win against Tennessee. Now there is fear of a letdown here, no question. Can they follow it up? Can they maintain focus? Florida's a solid basketball team. They're a good basketball team on their best day, and it's not going to be easy to beat this Florida team. And normally I would be buying into the letdown situation, but I'm not getting in Alabama's way right now. They're playing really well. Florida's still one of those opponents that I think, they've consistently been, one of the better teams in the SEC. When you look at it from a stylistic matchup standpoint, LSU early in the game against Florida on the weekend. Now, granted, Mike White's team was able to adjust as the game went on, but early in the season, LSU was lighting them up from the perimeter. And that's a little bit of a worry I have for Florida going into this game here against Alabama. It's also worth noting, does Florida keep playing a little bit faster than they have all year? Their tempo, they've been a 220 tempo team in the country the last few seasons. Their tempo rating right now is 145. They're playing faster a little bit. They're not blazing fast, but they're definitely they're not walking the ball up the court like they did last year, 2 years ago. And obviously that plays right into Alabama's hands, who want to go at warp speed all game long. So I did play a little over the total here in this game. 153 is the current number in this one. I think it could get there. I played over the total with LSU, Alabama. The game landed on, I believe, 152 points. It just squeaked over the total. So it's going to be close. I don't think it might be a sweat, but I do think it can just creep over the total. It should be a close game too. You could get fouls late to help it over that total. Yeah. So I lean Bama, but I do have a bet over the total of 153 here with the Gators and the Tide. Connor, what's your take?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't see Bama winning by 10 against Tennessee, but all the stuff Oates was saying, they looked great. I watched that game and the whole second half for sure. I watched most of the first. I side a little bit with the Tide, but I wouldn't take them it got a 2.5. Don't go 3. If you got a 3, I wouldn't. Just a little bit that way. You were giving out. I don't give out a ton of these numbers, but the Tide are 15-5. Their last 20 off a ATS win. They're 13-5-1 of their last 19 against at home against winning teams. And you just nailed it. The overs. They're 4-1, and the Gators are 6-0. So both these teams get up and down. I think it gets over. You might have to sweat, but I think, as you nailed it, the foul's late. I think this one gets over the total. I'm on the over. And the lean to Alabama. I don't know if I'm going to play it.
All right, Iowa State, Texas. Texas 12.5, 13-point home favorites, 140 the total. This is handicapping 101. It's a difficult spot to lay doubles with Texas. They're coming off the game of their season. They did a perfection game. I mean, they were hitting every shot. Courtney Ramey draining threes. It was unreal. It was just a 3-point barrage on Kansas, which blew that game completely open on Saturday, much to my delight because I had Texas plus the points. Again, Saturday was great for Connor and I both in college basketball. And that was one of the winners with Texas. Didn't even have to sweat. I mean, who needed the 4 points? I mean, they absolutely blew the doors off Kansas at Fog Allen, handing Kansas one of their worst home losses ever on that home court. And look, this Texas team is a beast. And if they are even their A- and B+ game tonight could cover this number, I'm just not convinced we see it. And I'll say one thing about Iowa State. Steve Prohm's a good coach. This team was terrible early in the season. They had a lot of, new faces. I do think they're starting to settle in a bit. Remember, Ty Halliburton was a big part of that team last year. He's gone, of course, to the NBA, but they still have Jalen Coleman-Lands, the transfer. He's really played better. Rasir Bolton, Solomon Young, Xavier Foster, Javon Johnson, playing better ball. I mean, against Baylor, don't be fooled by losing to 11 at home to Baylor. They had Baylor tied with about 7 minutes to go. I mean, they really gave Baylor a good go on the weekend. They only lost by 5 against West Virginia on the road. They did have the loss to Kansas State. Not a great loss, obviously, with Kansas State struggling, but lost that game by 9. It's been difficult the last few games to beat Iowa State by margin, and that's what it's going to take here. I think sneaky little underdog play potentially tonight on Iowa State. I don't love it because you just know Texas talent-wise is superior, but I don't love the spot, and I think you do get Iowa State, putting whatever best effort they have out there against this Longhorns team, and I think Texas could be a little flat. That was just a huge win for them against Kansas, not only beating them, but destroying them like they did. I worry about focus here for Shaka's team tonight in this game. So small bet for me, Iowa State plus the points. Connor, anything for you here? Cyclones, Longhorns.
Yeah, I think this is kind of maybe a little flat spot. Texas looks really good. I just sometimes, they were hitting everything, and they're good this year. I think it might be a little overvalued. It kind of opened that way of 15, 14 and a half. That's what I wanted. I still like Iowa State a little bit at 12 and a half. They have played better. And it's tough to read Texas. They love to market jump on them. If Texas plays well, so the line will keep going up and up and up if this team, the more they play well. But I think it's kind of a flat spot. I'm with you. I took a little piece at Iowa State at plus 12 and a half.
All right, a little small bet on Iowa State for Connor as well. ACC action next up, North Carolina, Miami. We've got North Kakalaki, 3.5-point road favorites here, 141 the total in this one. Yeah, North Carolina, a lot of people have said, wow, this team's going to bounce back, have a much better year, and now we're into conference play, and they've been kind of, not great. Nothing to write home about North Carolina. It's been a little bit of a staggered start to conference play this season. When you look at the way North Carolina has played in recent games, defense has probably taken a step back for the Tar Heels the last couple. They beat Notre Dame, but only squeak it out 66-65. They lose to Georgia Tech, give up 72. They lose to NC State, give up 79, and that one both on the road. 0-2 on the ACC road, Connor. Lose by 13 on the road against Iowa. Where's the road performances that make you want to trust North Carolina laying points on the road? I don't see it. They're 0-3 in their true road games so far. Iowa, NC State, and Georgia Tech. Miami's definitely got their issues. It looks like they're going to be without Chris Likes again tonight, but McGusty at least has come back in the last game or two for this Miami team, has helped them out a little bit. And one thing you get from Jim Laranaga's squad is, they never give up on a game. Just ask Purdue earlier this season with what Miami did to them, coming all the way back to beat them. You look at their last couple of games, right in there against Virginia Tech, they lose by 2, right in it against Clemson at home, and they fall just in the final few seconds, 66-65. It's a tough out type of Miami team. I'm not sure North Carolina has brought me the results I need on the road to trust them as road chalk. Give me Miami here. I like them plus 3.5 in this one. Connor, what's your thoughts on this game?
I'm with you. I don't think North Carolina, at this point right now, how they look, I think they're talented. I don't want to lay 3.5 with them. I think Miami's the only way to look here. I'm with you. McGusty's back. Miami's feisty, and they've looked good, especially the last few games. I think they could win this one outright, but definitely give me the 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing that's been kind of concerning for North Carolina is, they've gotten some good play. Leaky Black has had some good moments, but he hasn't been considered. Caleb Love and RJ Day, some of these other guys, they've been some of their better players for North Carolina this season in terms of production. I don't think for a guy like Garrison Brooks, the senior, who a lot was thought of, expected of him, I think he could take his game to another level. But North Carolina, definitely a team that has just struggled to truly put things together, particularly on the road. And that's definitely a concern for me going now on the road. A Miami team. So I think Miami's in this game start to finish and might even pull the outright upset, but I'll take the 3.5 points gladly. I think it could be a one-possession game either way. Move now to the Big Ten. Rutgers, Michigan State. We've got Michigan State 2.5 point home favorites, 149.5 the total in this game. If you want to say Michigan State's back on track, they finally won a game. I guess you could say that on Saturday, but it was lowly Nebraska, and they had Nebraska dead to rights, and they let Nebraska right back in the game, and they had to hang on and win by 7. And Nebraska's terrible. And that's only the first conference win for this Michigan State team as well. Tom Izzo looks exasperated. After every press conference that I've heard of him, he looks like he's coming to the realization, maybe my team's just not as good this year. And I think we're starting to maybe see signs of that from Michigan State. Now, the question is, these are spots last year where Rutgers failed, on the road against a capable team. And Michigan State's still capable. They've underachieved. They're obviously struggling. They lost to Northwestern, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, and really weren't competitive in most of those games before finally eking out an unimpressive win against a bad Nebraska team on the weekend. They didn't even cover, by the way, in that game. But is Rutgers ready? Because to me, when I look at these two teams and where they're at right now, to me, Rutgers is the better of these two teams right now. But are they ready to go on the road, get a win that they should? We've seen some of these games get away from Rutgers in the past, even earlier this season when they had Ohio State on the ropes, and Ohio State came all the way back and beat them. But I will say that right now, I will not lay points with Michigan State right now. No way. I know how. I do like Rutgers in this game. I know there's some concerns. Can they get it done on the road? I like the way they battled Iowa on the weekend at home. They fell just short, lost by 2. How about the win they had before that against Purdue? Shorthanded, 2 starters out, announced right before the game, and they still took care of business against Purdue. This is a tough team. It's a physical team. It's a defensively sound team. And by the way, Michigan State, they have nothing in their front court. Nothing. And Rutgers could absolutely abuse them and pummel them tonight in this game. I don't know what I can't make heads or tails of why the line is moving in the direction it is. Give me Rutgers here, plus 2.5. Connor, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, you're talking about it. Can Rutgers get it done? And obviously, they've lost their last 10 to Michigan State. All the guys out there, come to an
end. It's coming to an end tonight.
I think so too. But it's gone through 0. Now it's 2.5. I'll just keep waiting. Maybe hits 3. I think Rutgers wins. I'm going to take a money line, but I also like the over in this game, 149.5. All the Rutgers games, I think this gets to 80, 75. It's over. The thing is, Rutgers hasn't done well down the stretch, like we talked about. The Iowa game, Ohio State really folded, and they're having a hard time shooting free throws. I forget the stat. They made 4, and Iowa made like 15 or something like that. I forget, 16 in that game, something like that. The disparity was huge, and they've been shooting 60% all year. So I'm worried if it gets tight. That's that. But like right now, it's 2.5, and like I said, I'm going to wait on this one till tip. Because it could hit 3. I mean, tons of money's coming in on Michigan State. And like you said, everything's got to end in this Michigan State team. While I think they get better, I hope so. Not tonight, because I'm with you here too. I think Rutgers plus the 2.5, and I'll take some money line. And I like the over here as well, over 149.5.
Yeah, when you look at the free throws for Rutgers in the game against Iowa, They only got 12, so Iowa got more attempts than Rutgers, but 4
Okay.
for 12
4
from the free throw line for
4 for
Rutgers,
12.
33%. So, yeah, obviously, if it's a close game late and Rutgers needs to you got to have a better percentage than that. So that is a concern, no question about that. But I think a lot of people saw Michigan State pick them when it opened. Michigan State at home pick them with Tom. People just think that's historic. Michigan State, one of the elite teams in college basketball. Let's bet Michigan State. Maybe not realizing Michigan State's got serious issues right now.
Yeah,
like when your only win in Big Ten play is by 7 on the road against a pathetic Nebraska team, you've got some problems right now.
They have defensive problems. I watched some of that game.
50% shooting in their last 5 games combined, 45% from the perimeter. That's just not going to get it done. Not going to get it done at all. In the
no fans. I like it even more. This is Rutgers time, maybe, like we were talking about. So.
Yeah, I think Rutgers can get it done there as well. Moving on now down the card, we've got the next one up, I believe, is in the Big East. Yes, UConn, Marquette. Marquette, pick 'em, 138.5 the total. I think that the line's right where it could be. I could see either team winning this from a total standpoint. I think it could sneak over, but we know UConn has really slowed it down from a pace standpoint this year. Marquette, still playing relatively fast. I think offensively, there's some things that can work for them. I'd lean Marquette and maybe a little small piece of the over here, 138.5. But just a small bet here. Nothing strong for me with this one. Connor, how about you? UConn, Marquette.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I like UConn here just a little bit as a pick 'em. I think they're a better just all-around team. And nothing against Marquette. They have played an unreal schedule, Marquette has. A few good wins, the Wisconsin one. A few bad losses, but look at this. There was Georgetown, Villanova, Xavier, Seton, Creighton, UCLA, Wisconsin, Oklahoma State. So they played some tough games here. I just lean a little bit to UConn. I think they got the better defense, but I could see either side. And Marquette's lost 3 games already at home this year. I think just a little more talent with UConn, so I'm going with UConn.
The one thing that worries me for UConn, first true road game for them. Not as big of a deal. No fans, I get that, but still got to go on the road, and you got to face a pretty good basketball team. Let's see if Danny Hurley's team is ready for that tonight against Marquette. I mean, we've been waiting all season, by the way. We know James Bouknight and Tyrese Martin, R.J. Cole, Isaiah Whaley, Josh Carlton, this UConn team, but a cook. We're waiting for him to come back. One of the best teams in basketball, the Big, and he's 1 or 2 games away from coming back, and still waiting on him. But they say he's finally back later this month, so we're waiting on that. But certainly, that's going to be the inside presence that UConn. And once they get him back, with the players they have around the perimeter, could be a pretty damn tough Big East team, one that might be ready to challenge for the supremacy in that conference. But this will go a long way. What can they do tonight here on the road against this Marquette squad? Next up, Missouri, Mississippi State. Missouri, 1.5-point road favorites, 135 the total. Good win for Missouri on the weekend. Very good Arkansas team. And I kind of thought that, Missouri's faced a pretty tough schedule, getting a good amount of points. They could give Arkansas a game. Well, they did one better. They led wire to wire, essentially, against Arkansas at Bud Walton Arena there in Fayetteville. It was a really impressive win for Xavier Pinson and that Missouri Tigers team. Can they follow it up now on the road, a second straight game against Mississippi State, who are coming off the really, really tough loss against Kentucky? They led more of that game than Kentucky did. And unfortunately, Ben Allen's team just let the game slip away through their fingers late down the stretch. Frustrating loss for them. Can they bounce back going into this game against Missouri? It's tough because definitely a bounce back spot for Mississippi State, and I think they're a solid enough basketball team. I could see them winning. And when it comes to Missouri, I like them plus the 7 against Arkansas. Now they're on the road. They're laying points. Not necessarily that they've been terrible in that role, but they haven't been in that role very often. The one time they were was against Wichita State as a road favorite. They did cover in that one. My slightest of leans for me to Missouri because I still think they're better than this Mississippi State team a little bit, but I don't know. It's just, to me, from a value standpoint, Missouri plus 7 against Arkansas on Saturday when I bet them, or now take them minus 2.5 on the road at Mississippi State off a big win like that against a team that's going to be probably chomping at the bit after losing to Kentucky. So to me, it's just not the value spot for Missouri like it was on Saturday. So lean to Kwanzaa Martin and the Tigers, but just a lean for me. Connor, what's your thoughts here with the Tigers and the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried too. I think Mississippi State's pretty good and scrappy, and they played a decent schedule. It seems like they've lost a lot. They lost to Clemson by 11, Liberty by 11, Dayton by 3. They went to OT with Kentucky. Pretty good team. I think Missouri's a bit better. We'll see tonight. I lean a little bit them laying the 1.5. Their schedule has been real. Missouri, I think it's like, I don't know, second or third. The toughest schedule in Mississippi State's like 150.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Mississippi's in the 150. I think they're a bit better team. Kind of a good test here. I wouldn't lay more than the 1.5. They basically just got to win it. So I like Missouri a bit here. I'll lay the 1.5 with them.
All right, final game on the main board here, Kansas, TCU. We've got Kansas 6-point road favorites, 139 the total. I mean, it's just such an obvious Kansas spot. It really is. I mean, they're off the just rubbing embarrassment against Texas. Left Bill Self saying after the game, there's no doubt in anybody's mind who the better team was, he said after that game against Texas. You would think it is a bounce-back spot for Kansas. Certainly a team that if they bring their best, can win the game and probably cover this number as well. I did lay the points here with Kansas, 5.5, 6 here on the road. I don't know what to make of TCU. TCU is one of those teams. They can have some really good performances, and then they can have some head-scratching results as well. It's been a little bit of, and it's really been that way for Jamie Dixon here with TCU, really since he's been there. There's been times where it's looked like this team's ready to put it together, ready to go on a run. And then there's games where it just doesn't seem to be that way. I do like some of the talent here, though. I like Kevin Samuel. RJ Nembhard, of course, is going to be has been really good this season for this TCU squad. But they might be running into Kansas here just at a bad time on a bad night here, because you would think for the Jayhawks, there's going to want to be some atonement for what happened with them against Texas. And certainly I would think it's got to show up at the defensive end of the basketball court. You talk about me and not betting a ton of unders, but maybe I would look under 139 here in this game with Kansas and TCU, thinking that maybe Kansas steps up at the defensive end of the basketball court. You would think when you look at it, Kansas, by the way, their offensive numbers against Texas weren't their defensive numbers, I should say, weren't good against Texas the other night. Just absolutely awful shooting the ball they were themselves. 3 for 23 from 3-point range on Saturday against Texas. So, and only shot 30.8% overall field goal percentage against Texas. Yeah. So not only was the defense just getting shredded, especially the perimeter defense against Texas, they weren't making anything, whether from long distance, inside, 30% shooting for the game. Self has been using a lot of smaller lineups. He did it again for the most part against Texas. And I think he thought he might have an edge there, trying to speed Texas up. And all they did was punish them from the perimeter. So I think you're going to see a lot more of David McCormick, the big tonight for Kansas. Slow the game down, get that inside-outside balance back. I know you've got good guard play as well on this Jayhawks team when you look at Marcus Garrett, who is questionable to play tonight, according to some injury reports. So I would expect him to be in there. They're saying game time decision, but I think he'll be in there here. Ochai Agbaji had a bad game. I'd expect him to be better tonight. He had a bad game against Texas. David McCormick, I think, will be on the floor a lot more, enough with the small lineup. I think they can punish TCU a little bit down low with him in there. So put it all together, and I think he can make a case to lay the points here with Kansas. I think they bounce back strong. What's your thoughts, Connor? Kansas, TCU?
Yeah, this is a good one. I've looked at a lot. I think one of the better games on the night. This is notorious, Kansas bounce back spot right here. Like Bill Self said, they're not getting to the rack, and right now they don't have the shooters either. Kansas, they're just not getting inside and getting easy buckets. TCU's been weird to find out, but they've played pretty well. They beat Tulsa by 5. They beat Liberty by 4. They lost to Oklahoma by 4. Oklahoma State, they beat them by 1. As you saw, Oklahoma State blew that game last night. I had them. Let's not talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it. I didn't bet a big but still to lose it was
it was rough. But I think TCU, I like the under here, is what I'm getting at. And I like TCU a little bit if Garrett, he's a game time. I know Thompson's already out, but he got hit in that. I think Garrett plays, but I know he's hurt. But if he's out, I'd even lean TCU here. I just wanted a little bit more. I want 8 with TCU, not 6. But I definitely like the under here. And I'm going to wait on the injury report here right before tip-off.
All right, so there we go. A lean to the under there for Connor. All right, the added board, and then we'll get to best bets. I love this card because, look, 50 minutes. We got to take our time with every game. We didn't have to rush. It's a beautiful card today. Whereas tomorrow we'll be a little more pressed for time. I think there's a few more games tomorrow than there is today. But nice shorter card today. You can take your time breaking down the games. In terms of the added board, there's 3 games on the added board that are still to come later today. Longwood, USC Upstate, Hampton, Radford, Delaware State, Coppin State. All of these are rematches from yesterday, by the way, and oftentimes I don't like to back the winner of the previous game. I'm a little bit more reluctant to back the Hampton side, Delaware State as well against Coppin State. I did lean to the over. I think it could go over the total again. Fast-paced, Delaware State, Coppin State, but boy, was the 157 the total yesterday in the game, and it flew over the total. Now today's total is 160.5. So there's been an adjustment. And we saw with Monmouth Siena, flew over the total in the first head-to-head game. Yesterday in the rematch, it stayed under. And I'm seeing this more and more. First game goes over, second game stays under, and vice versa. First game stays under, the second game goes over. We're seeing that kind of pattern with these back-to-backs. So, yeah, yesterday was the time to bet Delaware Coppin over. Maybe it goes under after it flew over the total yesterday, and now it's a higher total as well in that one. So that's what's keeping me off that over. I made one bet on the added board, Longwood. We're going to go with them today against SC Upstate is still not very good. Longwood's not great either, but Longwood was leading most of that game yesterday. They were up by like 5, 7, 8 points most of the second half, and they just fell apart and crumbled in the last couple minutes. And Upstate stole it essentially in the final couple minutes of that game. I like Longwood to me. I like getting the better team in revenge for a close loss like Longwood had yesterday against SC Upstate. I think Longwood avenges that loss yesterday. They opened, I believe, 1.5 point road underdogs in that game against Upstate. Now they're 1 point road favorites, but I agree with the move. I think Longwood gets the win there against Upstate. That's the one added board bet I pulled the trigger with, Longwood against Upstate. Connor, anything for you on the added board today?
I'm with you with Longwood. Now it depends. It's a pick 'em. They're -1. I don't really like it. I lean Hampton just going off the back-to-back. They're getting 5. Radford's probably the better team, but I'm just going off that. It's just a lean. I didn't get to the window with it.
All right, good stuff. All right. Sponsors, Connor. We missed them yesterday.
Yeah.
We get them today.
Yeah, just go to everyone here needs a book. Go to mybookie.ag. Hit promo code PUBSports. You get 50% off your debit or credit, and you get 100% off if you use the Bitcoin. So you put 1,000, you get 1,000. So the debit or credit, you put 1,000, they give you 500. And if you need to go check out bulksupplements.com for the winter, get all those vitamins. It can help you with COVID and everything. Vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc. You get 10% off your order. Hit Pub Sports, promo code Pub Sports. And I'm going to hit this because we still got football, and I'm pretty sure they got a contest for the playoffs is Wolf Spreads. I got to double check that. But download our app, Wolf Spreads. It's a ton of fun. You pick as many games as you want. One game, a bunch of games. And at the end of the week, or at the end now, the wild card, the weekend, there's a winner. You get $2K to bet with, funny money at the end. You get a bunch of merch, PSR merch, hats. We got sweatshirts, all that good stuff, shirts. And our guy, defending champ, I think the Big Show, he's won it 3 times in a row. He's been letting me know, 3-time champ in the chat. So download Wolf Spreads. It's a great app. So get all that done, guys.
All right, there you go. There's our sponsors. All right, Connor, let's start with you. The ball is in your court, literally and figuratively right now. Best bet for Tuesday.
Wow, I'll leave off. Okay. Well, I like that under. I'll go, instead of this total, I'll go with Miami +3.5 as my best bet today. I think they keep it close. They're at home. Give me Miami +3.5.
All right, Miami +3.5 against North Carolina, I like that one as well, but I'm going to go obviously with something. I like to give different best bets from each of us rather than the same game whenever possible. I'm going to go right back to the game we just talked about, to the last game on the main board, I should say, not Longwood. That was the last game we talked about. No, not Longwood. I like Longwood. Bet Longwood, but it ain't best bet. Best bet is Kansas -6 against TCU.
All right.
I think they bounce back strong here. And I think, again, their A game has been good enough to beat some pretty good teams, to absolutely destroy West Virginia in a recent game as well, when Kansas just everything was clicking. And if everything's clicking tonight, I think they can win by margin. So Kansas, for me, against one of the worst losses that Kansas basketball has suffered in a very long time, especially at Fog Allen. They're just not supposed to lose by 20-plus points at Fog Allen. It just almost never happens. You would expect Kansas to come out. I think this is a lot like San Diego State last night against Colorado State. They just come out, just fire, maybe not get up by 20. Maybe it's close for a while. But again, we're talking -6.
Yeah.
Just pull away gradually, get a win by 10, 12 points. I think that's what we'll probably end up seeing tonight with Kansas. So I like Kansas -6 against TCU. That'll be my best bet here for the Tuesday night college basketball card. And with that, that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks to everyone in the chat. There's just too many to name. I mean, we've got 87 people. What a hell of a turnout watching this show today. Great stuff, everybody that joined us. We're doing these shows, a reminder. College basketball closing time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, as well as Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. NBA closing time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And NFL closing time, we're going to try to get that show done on Saturday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific this weekend instead of Sunday. We're not going to have a Sunday show. We're going to move it to Saturday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, me, Connor, and Ski, because 3 wildcard games on Saturday. We want to get those covered for you, as well as the 3 games on Sunday. So for this weekend and probably next weekend as well, we'll move the NFL show to Saturday, because there's going to be Saturday playoff games the next 2 weeks. So that's the plan. So really, it's going to be Connor and I back to back on Saturday. We'll do 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, the college basketball closing time. And then Ski will join us at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Saturday for the NFL closing time show. So we'll get you ready for super. They're not just calling it wild card weekend. They're calling it super wild card weekend, because you got 3
really
games.
Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah. Super wild card.
I didn't see that. Oh shit!
First time ever. You've got 3 games on both days on wild card.
Yeah, 3 games.
So we're looking forward to it. We'll break that down for you on Saturday. So make sure you join us for that. For Connor, Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games and good luck. Have a great Tuesday night, and we'll see you again tomorrow on Wednesday right here on Pub Sports Radio for more NBA and college basketball.